Cities are defined by their cultures. Those cultures could entail sports or business or certainly arts and entertainment. Oklahoma City is thriving in all of these areas. But who makes that all happen? This Town OKC explores the people behind the cultures, their origins, their motivations, their challenges, and their dreams. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. I've been in this town for over 50 years with a front row seat to seeing the culture grow from a dusty bus stop on the Southern Plains to a flourishing destination. Join me as we meet the folks behind the culture on This Town OKC. Jo Rowan, thank you so much for being here with me in the rehearsal studio at Carpenter Square Theater.
It is a pleasure to be with you, and I love what you've done here at Carpenter Square. It's really impressive.
Thank you. Speaking of, I have to say this at the beginning, Carpenter Square Theater sponsors This Town OKC, where we produce 8 shows a season, 10 performances of each production over 3 weekends with plenty of free parking right across the street. Okay, so you probably won't remember me. You may remember the interview, but our paths first crossed, I want to say, 40-something years ago.
Okay.
I produced a fundraising video for Oklahoma City University, sponsored then by Southwestern Bell, to raise money for the annex in the Kirkpatrick Auditorium building. And part of that was me interviewing the various professors. And I interviewed you, Florence Birdwell, your husband, John, as well as Carveth and some other folks who were there. I can't remember.
Maybe Ray Luke or...
maybe.
40 years ago, both of us are going, duh.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have any expectation that you would remember that particular interview.
I remember your smiley face, but I didn't know where I remembered it from, which is not good English, but anyway. And then I've always admired your wife, so
yes,
there you go.
She's very admirable. Okay, well, first off, or I guess secondly now, I'm so glad you sent me your bio because we're not going to talk about everything in it. If I were to read this bio, there would be no time to hear your stories.
Oh, yeah.
So comprehensive. Now, I've known that you were heavily involved with OCU and the dance program and the American Spirit Dance Company and all of that. I had no idea about all of the international travel, the international awards, the lifetime achievement, this and that, the who's who of this and that. And we'll get to some of that. But first, I want to know, where are you from?
Okay, I am from northern Kentucky, but I was born in Cincinnati. It's very much like somebody who would live in Fort Lee, but everything that they do is in Manhattan.
Right.
So my degrees are from the University of Cincinnati. And
before you get to college, where did you go to high school?
I did do in Covington, Kentucky, but at that time, my mother died when I was a young teenager.
Okay.
And I like to ride, and I am a terrible tomboy, and I rode.
When you say terrible tomboy,
I mean terrible, terrible. I loved baseball. I had a Ted Kluszewski bat. I had Gus Bell catcher's mitt. I had Smokey Burgess, catcher's mitt. But anyway, I had a bad mouth. And this was in the 1950s when people did not say hell or damn. I can remember being in the car and my dad going, damn it, and my mother going, Joseph, the children. So
when you say bad mouth, you're not talking about a physical deformity.
No, I'm talking about the ability to have no maps on my taps, so to speak, because that was my culture with these guys. They liked me a lot, but I had a sort of a tough side for the little body that I was in. I've done 3 West Side Stories as anybody's. And I remember one director saying to me, you've really got that down quickly. You've really done that. I said, well, I lived it for so many years. But the point is this. My father was, of course, injured by my mother's slow cancer death. And when I came home with that kind of uncontrollable tomboyness. He thought the best way to kind of cure that was to send me to a ballet class. So while I was in high school, he sent me, luckily, to a really great teacher who taught very serious ballet and also told me, you're starting too late, you'll never make it. That was the other side. He
Did you ever get to say, hey, I showed you?
No, my dad had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so there is a story, though, about how I got into becoming a ballet dancer.
Well, that's what I want to hear. That's why you're here.
Okay. So I studied with this wonderful teacher in Cincinnati. And then there began to be some people from Ballet Russe who were no longer dancing in 1950s. And one of the great ballerinas came in and taught. So I also studied with her, which means it was more professional, more challenging. In the summertime, because I didn't dance for center stage for money, or I danced because I loved it, and I wanted to have the people that I didn't know or couldn't see out in the dark. I wanted them to feel whatever I was trying to express, either happiness or I understand your pain. So I would dance my classes like that, not worried about perfection or competition. I just wanted to get better. Mm-hmm. Get better every day makes you happy.
Yeah.
You want to be perfect makes you unhappy because you don't make it a lot. So while I was on a summer workshop with, again, great dancers, Muriel Stewart came from New York, from Mr. Balanchine, School of American Ballet. And at that time, she was looking for people for Ford Foundation scholarship. Now we're getting into the 60s. I've had a couple years of serious training. And there were these wonderful dancers in this workshop with me. It was not in Cincinnati. This was a different city. Mm-hmm. And I just danced for the love of it. Everything that she gave me in the center that was a combination, I did because I thought, I'm moving, I'll be able to dance.
Yeah.
So of all the people at that school who were excellent dancers.
Technically perfect.
Well, they were getting close. They were running a good game against me. And also I had been told, you'll never make it, you're starting too late. So she chose me. I couldn't believe it. And then I remember at that time, the dressing room was behind a curtain at the studio. And the two ladies that ran the studio were arguing with her about, she doesn't have this, she shouldn't have that, she'll never, she didn't do that. And I kept thinking, please, God, don't talk her out of this, please. So she went, and she was not talked out of it, and sent a bus ticket to New York for me so I could audition for Balanchine.
Wow.
I was getting on the bus scared, and my dad said, what are you afraid of? I said, they won't like me. He said, I love you. Come home to me. You're okay. Just go.
Nice.
Fly. I remember him saying fly.
Yeah.
Irish daddy.
Yeah.
So I went to New York and I auditioned, and that wonderful Ballet Russe teacher that I had helped me to get through things physically and spiritually. So she was standing at the bottom of the stairs for Balanchine's studio. And I came walking down the stairs. It was 2 stories because he wanted one of those stories gone so people could jump. These were huge studios. And I could see her saying, well, how did you do? And I said, I made it. And she walked backwards, and I thought, oh my goodness, Madame, don't fall. So after training with Balanchine, then I began to perform for different situations. And I really loved not just being in ballet companies, but doing opera because I could be a screwball. I had a certain sense of screwballness because I think if you suffering and comedy are twins.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I was very funny. And I loved doing operas where I wasn't in a tutu. I was some character.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Le Pericole, I was a bearded lady, but you didn't see that because I had a scarf in front of my face. But when the weightlifter who was chasing me through the whole opera finally got me, I removed the scarf and he fell me on, he dropped me on the floor. So those are kind of crazy things. So going from ballet training into ballet and opera work into Radio City Music Hall put me in a situation where I began to do equity musicals.
Mm-hmm.
Equity.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how I got my equity card.
Please do.
Okay. So.
Are you still an equity member?
Oh, yes.
Good for you.
I do it the company way. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Pajama game. Yeah.
How did you get your equity card?
Okay. I had been auditioning for many different things, but I heard you find out what's going on in the dressing rooms. I heard that American Ballet Theater was looking for dancers, and Lucia Chase liked people who were blonde, not over 5'4", because the men had to partner you on point. It's different now, but we're talking about before the dinosaurs all died. This is a long time ago. And I knew I was in shape. I never let a day go by that I wasn't taking class. And if I wasn't given class, I didn't eat. I did my own class at dinner time or at lunch. Okay, so I'm ready to go down and audition for American Ballet Theater. And just like that musical, I'm trying to think of Music in the Mirror from Chorus Line, where she says, you know exactly what's going on, which is the truth. You know exactly where you are. It's not like being a comedian. You have to hear somebody laugh, but dancers know what they're doing. So I was doing 4 pirouettes on point and nailing things, and I thought, boy, I think I've got this. And we were going down to the last minute, thank you to other people. And there was a ballet dancer who was the daughter of 2 very famous stars. So long story short, I didn't get the job, she did. Now, this was when I was young enough to think, that's not fair. I always teach my students, life is not fair, get over it, go on, it's going to be okay. No, it was me. It was raining. I lived on the west side of Manhattan. I was waiting for the 104 to take me up to my little room. I was crying and sitting in a very small stairwell up to Harlequin audition rehearsal halls. It's not there anymore. It's a parking lot now. But anyway. And I'm crying and waiting for the 104, and there are a bunch of men that are going up the stairs and down the stairs. Now, I was 5'4", blonde, just nailed that audition, and I'm looking at those men, and I said to one of them, what are you doing? He said, they want someone to cover Robert Goulet, who is a singer. They were all dark-haired. They were tall. I went, that's it. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going up and audition for a Robert Goulet. So when I went upstairs, they had just lost the dancer for Funny Girl. And there I was. So I said, okay, I'm auditioning. They had me sing, and I was so mad, I just belted Happy Birthday. It was like, watch out, New Jersey. And then they had me do ballet, which I nailed, jazz, which I could fake. And they said, can you tap? And I had seen people around me doing something like a stomp on 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I said, yes. That's another thing I tell my students. Never say you can't do something.
Right.
Let them tell you you can't.
Right.
Okay. So they do rat-tat-tat-ta. I'm going da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm just faking it. And I got the job, and I couldn't believe it. I went, oh my goodness, I just went from auditioning for American Ballet Theater to Funny Girl, and I got Funny Girl. So in showbiz, there's a lot of that. Make your own luck, prepare yourself, and then be in the right place at the right time.
Right.
And there's a lot of no's
Sure.
because it's not the right place at the right time. But good luck to a great extent is controllable, not specifically, but in general, it's preparation meeting opportunity.
Right.
And that's what I tried to do when I came to OCU. The president, Dr. Walker, had heard there's a ballerina here in town from all the people that I worked with in New York. I couldn't believe what's happening in Oklahoma City. All these professional people came from Oklahoma City. So they told Dr. Walker that I was here. And I had just moved to Oklahoma City. And so I came up there with my records that I had out and publicity and whatever. And he said, well, I'd like to offer you this dance department, the Ballet Modern Dance Department. And I said, no.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, well, why is that? I said, because you have a great ballet modern program at OU. Tarakoff and Chateau are so admired by me. It's ridiculous. But I have just come back from Russia, and all of the Russians, they want to dance like Fred Astaire. So I told him, he was Cherokee. I said, Dr. Walker, you know how in the movies all the bad guys are on horses with bows and arrows and all the good people in the wagon train that's around here, and they have guns. And I said, that's kind of bad PR. We in America are a democracy. Our art is entertainment. It comes from the street up to the ballroom, to the vaudeville circuit, to the theater, to movies. It's our art, and that doesn't negate my training in a European art. But why is it just that if the czar or the king is the person who motivates, pays for, sees that something occurs, that top of the pyramid down is art? No. Bottom up is art. So what I'd like to do is teach people here tap, jazz, ballet, singing, contract law. To my knowledge at that time, they weren't teaching things like anatomy in ballet class. I want dance workshop, which I invented, which was how do you survive in LA and New York? How do you get an agent? How do you get a manager? How do you grease the concierge to get to the apartment? So the next thing he said to me, well, would you teach dance? I said, no. He's going, what? I said, I want to teach people to be dancers. I don't want to just teach technique. There are wonderful schools that are doing that within universities. They are teaching technique. Beautiful.
Right.
However, it's only people who are singers or actors who can be taught how to make really good money in equity and musical theater and entertainment. I want to teach entertainers, dancers who want to be in showbiz. So now, I've never been to all of the different universities in America. I can just tell you, I had done a lot of work by that time. And I didn't know of any other school in America in 1980 that had a program aimed at dancers working in the entertainment business. And we started out with 2 dancers. I'll be succinct. I worked 24/7. That doesn't mean I worked late at night or I had Saturday Saturday, Sunday, whatever. I was performing and recruiting. I was putting a syllabus together and a curriculum. I was teaching classes. I tried to get the faculty together so that everything was cooking that way. And then take care of the garbage du jour, which always is involved in management.
Yes, I understand.
It's not easy. So he said, "Can you do it?" And he didn't see I had my fingers crossed when I was saying, "Oh, yes, yes, I can." And my husband, who was getting another degree in management from OU, helped I told you he was a great writer. He's really wonderful.
And this is John Bedford.
John Bedford. But yeah, and he was eventually the dean, Dean John Bedford. He put together my theories about things like people should not be jealous of one another. Instead of stepping on other people's heads, they ought to climb up a ladder or pull themselves up by a rope, pull themselves up. And then I double cast everything. And everybody got on stage, because that's another story for some other podcast about what I had gone through and how that affected what I did as a chair of a department. We had first and second casts. Everybody was first and second cast. That didn't mean you're better if you were first, unless they were just first and second cast. And then in the early 80s, I really motivated people that you help your other alter ego, and she'll help you or he'll help you. But after about, I would say, 8 years, there was a culture that was created within the dance department. And that culture was the generosity of everybody can be good and we'll help one another and we'll cheer on one another when they do things well. Competition is important in sports. I mean, the whole idea is you got to win.
Yeah.
But you don't need that competition except for yourself. There's a certain competition. And I also saw that sometimes people who were involved in the training for excellence were aiming at perfection, which meant in the evening when they didn't get through a perfect day, they were depressed. I taught my students aim at getting better, because there's no way you can't be happy at the end of the day if you got better. And if not, look yourself in the mirror and find out what was wrong, and then don't correct it. Because if other people are always making you wrong, you're never going to get any better.
Right.
So the curriculum and that kind of philosophy is what I brought to the table. Dr. Walker said, "Okay, yes, you can do it." My husband helped me to put together that philosophy. And I believe that Oklahoma City University was the only place you could go for a dance degree in entertainment, musical theater, tap, jazz, ballet, singing, acting, and all the other things like reading a contract so you don't die penniless. You got to know what you're doing and how to get an agent, which is what I said before, and a manager. So that was my pitch with my fingers crossed in the back, and my aim was we had 2 people who were registered when I took over. The rest of the dancers were from Ballet, Oklahoma. So now Dr. Walker wanted a department just for OCU dancers. So this is approximate. The first year, I brought in approximately 25. Second year, 50. Third year, 75. The fourth year, 100 students. And there was a lot of competition because there wasn't any other school, especially for men who wanted to tap dance. One year we had 57 men. It was like, holy cow, what is that? But after we got 100 students, we started to audition people who had good SATs and good background in their high school, their grades. And that wasn't because people were smart or dumb. It has to do with, are people disciplined or not? Because if you're not disciplined, that's another problem with being employed.
Right.
Ethics, courage, generosity, hard work. All those things have to do. And if you go to Oklahoma City University's school, you go into the building, you'll see all of those criteria for working and wanting people to use you again. They're on the wall. Lots of people get their first job because they're technically really competitive. Mm-hmm. They don't get their second job because while that experience occurred of being wonderful technically, they were terrible backstage.
Right.
And so people would go, I don't want to work with
Exactly,
people.
yeah.
And I always, being a crazy Irishman from northern Kentucky, and at the time I thought things ought to be fair, I kept thinking, that's not fair. So-and-so's worked with so-and-so before, and we don't even have a chance. No. If you've worked with somebody before, and you know they are technically competent, spiritually centered, mentally on track, and professional, you want to hire them again.
Exactly, yeah.
So that thing about life is fair, prepare yourself to get the job, preparation, and opportunity.
I have some questions. I want to backtrack a little and then jump forward some more, and then we'll get into the more recent past. I'm intrigued by the concept of your father wanting you to be less tomboyish by putting you into a ballet class. Do you recall at what age that was?
Yeah, that's my early teenage years, but I can't tell you exactly that because my mother had leukemia, mm-hmm. and they said that she had mononucleosis. Those were the days, if you look at the movies, if the man had to leave Japan, he said, I don't love you anymore, instead of saying, I'm sorry, but I've got to leave you, and I love you, but you'll never see me again. There wasn't that explanation.
Right.
So my father knew that my mother... This is past tense, I'm guessing. My father knew that my mother was vulnerable and going to die. And he suffered with that and didn't tell my brother and me what the situation was, because if my mother got a transfusion, she's strong again, and then she would go down. So I just know that I had all of that baseball equipment because if the boys wouldn't play with me, I'd take my equipment home. Doesn't mean I was that good. I had to learn to catch that hard ball in the pocket because wacko, they were aiming at me.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get that situation with me out, with my equipment in.
Yeah.
And then I just found... riding horses was a way of almost like dancing. There was this wonderful oneness of rhythm, and if you just didn't have a new horse in your life every other day or something, you have a connection in a way that you're not breaking the horse. The horse understands you. And that connection made me really happy when my mother was in such a bad situation. Mm-hmm. However, though, I really had no discipline about getting mad and letting go. I was mad at everybody when my mother died. I was mad.
At what point in your early ballet training, in your early teen years, at what point did it click that this was what you wanted to do for the rest of your life? Or did that even occur at that point?
That's really a great question that you'd be that sensitive to that. Yeah, the minute I walked into this ballet class, music, I can move to music.
Yeah.
And then also, this sounds extreme, but it's not. I went to a private, very challenging high school. I cleaned one room a night because I couldn't do what this German community, you kept your house clean.
Yes.
I couldn't do that on Friday. I had to do one room a night after I had cooked dinner. And then on Saturday, I did the wash. And on Sunday, I ironed. Those were days when you ironed cotton handkerchiefs.
Right.
I did that. Being able to go to dance class, I could be a child again. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I never thought of saying that at that time. But the teacher, Anneliese van Ottingen, was so concerned, so motherly, that instead of having parents drive me to dancing school, maybe 3 times a week, once a week, I went every day that I could after school because she was like a mother to me, and that was a way that I could.
Sure.
So I would say between the great teacher, and there's so many out there that are changing people's lives.
Right.
Between that great teacher and the music, that's how I got into it. Now, I got a national award for being a dance teacher of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to say something, so I had a little speech. But the way I started out with that, because it dawned on me flying to New York, something I wanted to say to them. So I said, I just sat in a plane, was very, very heavy, took off, and flew in the air. Now, how did we do that? I said we had our prehensile thumb, and teaching makes us a very admirable and dangerous animal. So that's where I went with that last question. I don't know.
I'm going to assume that it was early in that training that ballet spoke to you. But I am still curious, at what point did you decide this is going to be my life? Was it in high school, or did you major in dance at University of Cincinnati?
Yes, I did. My master's degree, not my first degree, but
Okay.
Bachelor of Science. But everybody told me you're starting too old.
Right.
And I had some tap lessons from a really wonderful teacher when I was about 6 or 7. I don't remember, but really lovely. That's another generous story about a wonderful teacher. But right away, I felt that that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know that I could actually do it until I got that scholarship at the School of American Ballet with Balanchine.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I got finished with my training there, I was competitive, and so I worked right after that. But I would like to tell you something about my tap teacher when I was only 5 or 6 or 7.
Okay, please do, because I have a question about tap. So
Okay. So thank goodness I had something I could remember that I learned when I was 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know. But this teacher's name was Bob Ziegler. And my mother and I would walk over to his studio in downtown Covington. And for some reason, which I don't remember, we stopped in the middle of a year of dance. I don't remember why. And I kept pestering my mother, please, I want to go back to class. She asked Bob Ziegler, can my daughter come back to class? Now, they were working on recital dances. He said yes, and taught me the dances, freebie,
mm-hmm.
so I could get back into that. Now, that's really generous when you think of how teachers work all day long, how hard.
Yes.
To say, yes, I figure he saw something in me that, yes, I'll teach her.
Nice. Very nice.
So that's why I think teachers are saints.
I do too. Okay, so keeping in the spirit of tap, you're at this audition for Funny Girl, and they ask you if you can tap, and you do the stomp on the 8. So obviously you weren't an accomplished tap dancer at that point. What prompted you, I guess, that job to get more accomplished and take lessons, take class in tap?
Well, I was sure that I didn't have the job because the audition was for Robert Goulet, but this was a side craziness,
Uh-huh.
like in 42nd Street, where the lead breaks her ankle, and then
Right.
they say to the, "Can you do it?" And they say, "Well, I'll try." So it's crazy like that. That's what showbiz is like. So I think you'll have to ask me that again. I got off on it. What was it?
What prompted you to expand your tap training? Because you also ultimately received an international award, well, a big award in New York for tap preservation.
Yeah.
So obviously,
Yeah.
you went a long way from faking it to winning a very prestigious award.
So, trying to be succinct, I was just telling about how it happened, but if I expanded that, I would say whatever I learned when I was 5 or 6 came back.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I could do anything more than time steps or, I don't know, buffaloes or whatever it was, but something came back. So I'm fighting Irish.
Mm-hmm.
I resent when good people are not given a chance to show what they can do, or when they are maligned incorrectly. So tap has always been a profession that's been sort of sloughed off. Now, there were great tap teachers and great tap dancers. So I did do a lot of musicals, and a lot of tap was in that, and you pick things up that way.
Sure.
My days were not long enough to do ballet class, tap class, perform, rehearsal. So what I learned was what I learned with other dancers, and I respected them. So I had constantly done things to promote tap. First of all was 1980, when I said, we're not just teaching ballet modern, we're teaching ballet, jazz, tap, musical theater dance, which is a little offset of that.
Mm-hmm.
First time tap dancing taught in a university.
How about
now,
that?
there are a lot of smart people that have picked up on that, so there are many really good dance departments now for entertainers, for dance entertainers. But at that time, to my knowledge, nobody. So I was pretty smart, and there are people that picked up on that are pretty smart to know that's okay. So between knowing all of these wonderful dancers, also knowing that they were denied venue, that America didn't know Jimmy Slide the way they knew Fred Astaire.
Mm-hmm.
In my fighting Irish righteousness, I thought, this is not right. So we began to give Living Treasure Awards to the famous tap dancers who were getting older now. I was afraid that they would die without knowing that we respect them. So over about 10 years, or maybe even 10 or 12 years, we brought in to Oklahoma City University great tap dancers like Peg Leg Bates, and we gave them a Living Treasure Award and a week at OCU, or a weekend, depending on whether they were available. People in the audience might know Honey Coles. He was a great tap dancer and was only available because he happened to be hot at this moment. He was in a Broadway show, so he would say, well, okay, he's coming back. Okay. But he was there for a weekend, and the students were then breathing the same air as these great dancers. Well, it got to the point where my husband and I wanted to do some doctorate degrees for people who were great tap dancers.
Okay.
So honorary doctor's degrees for people who were great tap dancers.
Right.
Okay. So there were 10 dancers that we felt ought to be honored in a big way, a gala inviting people in from New York and all over the country, from Germany and to honor these tap dancers. So we kind of kept it under wraps. We were thinking about this, and we went to President Tom McDaniel, and we said, there are great dancers who have been denied venue. We'd like to honor them. They're in their 80s and 90s. They may be dying soon. I don't want to do something posthumously. I want to be able to do something now.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, well, now remember, people usually give 1 to 4 doctorates in the whole end of the semester, year. He said, well, how many would you like to do? I said, 10. 10. I said, yes. And then my husband and I went to different meetings, different associations of important people who were either on the board of trustees or they were part of faculty, and also the president, and made the point that these were great American dancers. They have discovered, they used to call it stealing steps, they have discovered an American dance style. And they've done it so that some of them are still alive. And Europe didn't do it, and the whole world loves it.
Yeah.
We have to see how wonderful we are and honor tap artists. So I don't have the list right now, and I'm afraid if I start saying all the people that were honored, that I'm going to leave somebody out. But now the Nicholas brothers did have venue, but they were denied all they could do. And Harold had died, so he was eventually given his honorary doctorate posthumously. But the rest were just fabulous. And so that there were 9 there, plus everybody else from the world. And then my husband and I got a Flaubert Award, which is an award similar to a Tony or, the different awards that they give.
The Tony of Tap, I read in your bio.
Yeah, yes, because when these great artists were denied venue, people don't know them in the same way.
Right.
And that doesn't matter. They are still like the Pavarottis of opera. These were the top guys, and they were still alive. So, and they were my dear friends. So they honored John and me. Jimmy Slide and Savion Glover were the presenters. And so that was really nice because we never dreamed anything like that would happen. But yeah, like an Emmy, like a Tony, there was the Flauberts.
It's a pretty big dang deal.
Yeah, it was to us. And to Oklahoma City University,
Sure.
because people really respected that school.
Yes, yes.
Because
it has earned its reputation.
Before my husband and I retired, which was recent, we were honored. Let's see if I can get this right. On Stage Magazine said that in their opinion, that Oklahoma City University's dance department was the best in America for producing dancers who work.
Wow, nice.
So a lot of that has to do with my husband really being the first to talk about dance management. We were the first in a lot of things. I was a promoter and interested and really cared about performers. He had a management degrees, plural, from OU. And he put together a program for management. The next thing that we did is we realized that dance studios in America needed to have a pedagogy to keep their dancers safe and to make money.
Right. Yeah.
Both of those things.
Sure.
So we had a pedagogy department. And then after that, we found that there were people who were interested in entertainment, but they weren't interested in being a dancer. So I remember walking down 57th Street one time in New York, and I saw one of the guys who was from the school. And I said, "What are you doing now?" He said, "I'm managing Carnegie Hall." I went, okay. And then at a different time, I saw another guy, and I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He's in charge of making sure that the Metropolitan Opera had enough donors, and Metropolitan Opera.
Yeah.
I went, okay.
Yeah.
So,
nice, very nice.
My husband, Dean John Bedford, knows a lot about who is doing what. I'm afraid to get into that situation because I do know lots of people who are doing what, but
Right.
I'll leave somebody out, and I don't want that.
As a former professor myself, I know how gratifying it is to see how far a former student takes themselves in whatever field they choose to go into. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world.
Yeah. And I think that by expanding the focus of our teaching, it really helps anybody who goes to Oklahoma City University to work, because if you love to dance but you sprain your ankle, you might want to be in management.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in management, you might want to, this happens often, perform as a dancer. When you want to open your studio, you have a background of being able to train. And then there's a group of entertainment business with nothing bad about making money.
No, nothing at all.
So it means for a lifelong ability to see that those green erythrocytes of money flow within your desire to be in showbiz, that you can stay alive. And another thing too, I think when people are performing and they know that they've got education, they understand management and teaching and entertainment business, there's more of a comfortable way of taking an audition. And that always makes people behind the desk, I think, well, we want them. They're not so passionate about having us want them. So maybe something there. Maybe we need them.
Yeah, I've heard from many people in the film industry anyway say it's show business, not show hobby.
That's up on our board. It says it's business. Without the business, you have no show.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah,
we have that on the wall.
Yeah, that needs to be drilled into any artistic student. Sometimes,
just sort of as a loving joke, you can take somebody by the wrist over to the wall and say, "Do you see that? It says courage. That's what you need. It's going to be okay. There's courage."
Well, Jo, our time is coming to an end hereabouts. We didn't get into all of the international travel and awards that you've received over the years. And I'm sorry about that, but this has been a fascinating story that you have told me today.
Well, I think that I really lived a good life, and you don't know that when you're a kid. You think, I wonder what's going to go on.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing to have a team player like my husband, because I think in poetic terms, I think we're like a bolo, if people know what that South American, that weapon or is bolo. Mm-hmm. We're also not like two people stuck in a wagon going west. We're more like the Scouts. We're like the bolo works together, but not together. So I was lucky enough when I decided finally to get married. I really didn't want to do all of that cooking, cleaning that I'd been through. It wasn't like, okay, Disney's going to have this white horse pull up with a prince. Right. No, I want to dance. So, but he's been involved in things like the Baltimore Symphony, Maryland Ballet, Dallas Ballet was still around, Light Opera Company of Manhattan. And then also he worked for the Mummers here in town as house manager. So there was a connection here with Oklahoma, and became dean of the Oklahoma City University Ann Lacey School of American Dance and Entertainment.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. So how did you meet John?
He tells this story much better than I tell it. So we knew each other, and he wanted me to be able to come out to Oklahoma while he was in school here in Norman.
Okay.
And
where were you when you met him?
Working in New York. I was in musical theater. I was making money, equity money.
Sure.
Okay. But
And was he there as well?
no. He was doing management things. I was performing. We weren't together much at all, but I admired his integrity.
Mm-hmm.
That really was unusual. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, like, well, no, never dropped. So he was here at OU. I'd never been to Oklahoma before. I had. I was touring through here twice.
Okay.
But that's like going to the Skirvin and going someplace else.
Yeah.
So he said, I'd like to have you come out and be with me for about a week. I didn't know he was thinking about asking me to marry him. But I said, nope, I won't do it. I'm not going to go anywhere that I can't get professional class. Because he had said something like, well, you can do class out here. No, I don't. Professional class. And he said, well, Miguel Tarakoff and Yvonne Chateau are at OU. I went, what? Tarakoff and Chateau are at OU? I'll come.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said, ask if they will let me take class. So he went over and he asked Mr. Tarakoff, I have a girlfriend who'd like to come out and take class. Could she take class here? Now, there's a thing in the business at that time, maybe still, called professional courtesy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But this Tarakoff didn't know me from Adam. So he says to John, no. So John pulls out a picture, any dancer that's in the audience now, of me in a high Russian attitude, way above over my head. Tarakoff looks at it and says, yes. So that's how, that picture is how we were able to really get together on a more serious basis. And I just began to trust him, where without family and without money, I had been exposed to really survival, and I had to get smart. And I had not to trust people that were just honey, darling, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
no.
right, yeah.
Kept enough of like a lead wall that I would not be endangered or hurt. But slowly, he proved to me that he was not only intelligent and professional, but ethical. And I thought, I can live with that. So.
And so did you end up here because you married and he was here?
Okay. Next. Good question. Next story. No, we were always apart. And when we were married and he came back from the Vietnam War, he served in the Navy. Then he wanted to go back to school and get a more advanced management degree, because at that time, Brezhnev was managing ABT, Sills was managing City Center Opera, I believe, not the Met, that was Mr. Bing. But those situations and those organizations were not being successfully managed as far as money and survival goes. And I know that you're involved in that, so you understand exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And he had been managing things in New York. He was a part of Baltimore Symphony, managing Baltimore Symphony, really top-class stuff. And he wanted to make sure he had more education. So he said, I'd like to go back to school. Will you join me? Now, he and I were bolos. We were meet, but we didn't have a house or a home or anything like that. We would take a job when it was offered. And that didn't mean we could be together all the time.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll join you if you are in a situation where I can get professional class.
And that's...
So he mentioned 3 universities that had top management departments and top dance.
Okay.
And since I had been here for that whole week and taken class, it was like 2 years later. I said, Oklahoma, if you will go to the University of Oklahoma, I will join you. And so he did. And we actually bought a little house And I came into this area with all these performers that I knew who were going, Joe's back in town. And that's kind of how it led to being invited to chair the department and invent the dance department at Oklahoma City University in 1980.
Wow.
And I have to make sure that I say that, because when I say we were the top school, there are many schools now who saw that what we were doing was the right thing. And I think that's kind of nice too, being able to honor what we are as entertainers. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy with that. You know, one thing leads to another. And
yeah.
Two things blossom into four, and then it just...
Yeah. Jo Rowan, thank you so much for telling such wonderful stories to me today. This has been so delightful.
I have a million of them.
We'll have to schedule another session.
One time somebody asked me, would you tell me what happened in the beginning? And I said, well, in the beginning there was this big bang.
Yeah.
They went not that far back.
Right. This Town OKC is sponsored by Carpenter Square Theater, edited by Fred O. Bishop. It's a Lippert Media production. I'm Rick Allen Lippert.